So I shot my dad once. I thought that'd be a great way to start off. It was a picture. I shot a photo of him. I'm sorry. That's just the best way to start off a story. You just say you shot them, but I know. I didn't actually shoot him. It was a photograph. I shot a photograph of my dad. I'm not good with a gun. In fact, I never trust myself with a gun, mainly because I'm clumsy, I'm forgetful, and I just tend to... My hands don't do what I tell them to do. I was terrible at sports. The teacher would constantly say, hey, throw the ball like this. It just would never go where I told it to go. I don't trust myself. So I've just decided never to shoot a gun, never to, they scare me to death. Last time I held one, I felt like I was holding a piece of dynamite that was going to blow up in my hands. Just, those of you who know me, know that Ty should probably never hold a gun. It's probably just a better move. Becky would be much more trustworthy with a gun than me. It's not a good move. Anyone else who uses a gun? That's fine. I respect you. Go ahead, do that. Not me. Not here. I have no use for guns for me. But my dad was a hunter, so somewhere he failed because as a 5-year-old I should have been handed a gun and taught how to use it. Never happened. So I don't have any interest in hunting, but my dad grew up hunting all the time. Oddly enough, I never went with him. I think it was because my mom was terrified that something would happen to me as a child, so I wasn't allowed to go until eventually I was a grown adult and I said, you know what, I'm going to go hunting with Dad. But since I'm terrified of guns now, I'm just going to shoot photos rather than deer. So I went outside with him, and I like hiking. I like going for nice hikes. I like going for nice walks, so we went on an adventure. I just saw it as a nice opportunity to get out and just enjoy a day of the Okanagan County, just being out in the wilderness. That's my dad, actually. See, I did shoot him. I shot a photo of him. There it is. See? It's true. I did. Walking around. It was a lot of fun. Had a great day. It was my first time going out hunting officially. My first actual time going out hunting. And of course, we didn't see any deer. There wasn't one. Not one showed up. Not one. There wasn't a single deer to be seen. It was a barren wasteland. There was nothing out there. Except, well, I think there was maybe one doe. Just a doe. But we had, we only had a buck tag, so that was worthless. So there was not even a deer on another mountain waving at us or taunting us. There was nothing. There was just nothing. It was just it was a bit of a letdown. But I learned something from this experience, and that is, no matter how good of a hunter you are, no matter how talented you are, no matter how good you are at tracking deer, trapping deer, or anything, if the deer doesn't show up, you ain't gonna shoot one. Same with fishermen. If you're a fisherman, you ain't gonna catch no fish if the fish don't show up. It just ain't gonna happen. You can't catch a fish if the fish don't come, unless you're using a net, but that's cheating. You can't. It has to show up, right? And there's many things in life where if something doesn't happen, if it doesn't show up, it ain't gonna happen, right? It's just not gonna happen. And the thing is, this kind of leads us to the problem we're gonna be focusing on and revolving about today, and that is that we are all we have a tendency where we're searching for something more. We're searching for something to show up, waiting for something to happen. I mean, haven't you ever worked hard at something or prepared for something? You've done the work, you've done the time, you've done the research, you've prepared yourself, you've trained, you've practiced, and then nothing happens. It doesn't work out. You failed. Or it didn't work. Maybe you invested in a friendship and the friendship just doesn't go anywhere. It just didn't show up. The friendship didn't show up. It disappeared. Sometimes you invest in something, sometimes you do the work and just nothing shows up. Nothing comes from it. Just nothing happens. And I think the problem is, a lot of us are used to this. We're used to life being this way, where you put in some effort and you just hope something happens from it. You hope something shows up. But the reason why we all have this need within us to search for more is because I think on a deeper level, if we're to take this deeper, that's the theme of our series, we're going deeper. If we're to take this idea a little deeper, all of us are searching for meaning, we're searching for significance, we're searching for love, we're searching for reward, we're searching. There's always this need to find something more in life, to find something that gratifies us, that makes us feel good about ourselves, that makes us feel good about life, that makes us feel satisfied with our lives. There's this need, this longing for it. And I would argue, and I believe, and we here just Impact Generation firmly believe that what we're all really searching for is God. We believe God is the source of life. He's where everything comes from. He's the source of an abundant life. He's the source of a good life. He's the source of fulfillment. Everything is found in God, and that's where true meaning is found. But most of us try to find things our own way. I'll find my own way. I'll discover my own way to go. I'll figure out how to go about through life. But here's the cool thing. God actually shows up. When you search for God, you will find God. And there's no clearer proof of that than Jesus himself. As a blanket statement, I'll start off by saying Jesus is God. Jesus is God. He's God. So when you look at Jesus, that's God. Jesus isn't just a prophet. He's not just a righteous man. He's not just a holy man. He's not just a religious man. He's not just this radical that showed up so many years ago. He's not just a swear word. Jesus is God. They're one and the same. Jesus isn't just an angel that was graduated. Jesus isn't a person that then became God. Jesus is God. So when you see Jesus, that means you see God. When Jesus showed up, that means God showed up. God showed up when Jesus came to earth. Check it out. John chapter 1, starting with verses 1 through 5. Now I want to catch you up to speed real quick. It says the word here. Later on, he explains the word means Jesus. It's a fancy word for Jesus. It meant something to the audience the writer was speaking to at the time. So we won't get too much into that, but check it out. In the beginning, we'll just replace the word with Jesus, okay? Just make it simple, all right? In the beginning was Jesus, and Jesus was with God, and Jesus was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Cameron?
What translation are you using?
NLT.
What is NLT?
New Living Translation.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's easy reading. That's why I picked it. It's good reading. This is talking about Jesus. This is who Jesus is. Jesus is God, right there, okay? Now, before we go any further into this conversation, our goal with what we're doing here for the next 8 weeks, we're going deeper into who Jesus is. We want Jesus is the center of everything the church believes, everything a Christian believes, everything a Jesus follower believes. And how do you really contain or describe or capture an image of who Jesus is? Because Jesus is this person that, whether you want to believe it or not, has literally changed history. Whether people wanted him or not, your whole calendar revolves around it. From the day Jesus came to today, we're now in year 2019. That's 2019 years since Jesus was here. That is what it was based off of. Now the new thing they use today is it's the common era, but it used to be called after Christ or something like that. I don't remember. I always get everything mixed around in my head. But the whole thing is all of history revolves around when Jesus showed up. So whether you believe in him or not, he has changed history. He has made an impact. And Christians are still here to this day 2,000 years later because of what Jesus did. It's monumental. Jesus changed history. How do you capture and describe someone like that? Well, it's going to be hard to. We're going to do our best to kind of show you more of who Jesus is within these next 8 weeks. And it's going to be heavy. We're going to go deep. But the main reason I want to share this is because I believe it's going to affect your life personally. This has meaning for your personal life. It's not just some theological, deep, critical thinking discussion. This is a talk that will influence you and impact you. That's my prayer anyway. So we're going to start with definition number 1. So I don't have time for questions at the moment, Justin, but ask me later. We're going to start with definition number 1. We're going to focus on today about Jesus. And that, if we're to define Jesus today, we're going to say Jesus is God shows up. The definition of Jesus is that God shows up. When you see Jesus, that is proof that God shows up. Before we go on, let's pray. Let's invite God into the conversation. I believe God is in this place. He's real. He's tangible. He's not far away. And I believe he wants to speak to you guys this evening. So if we close our eyes for a minute, just so we're not distracted, there's nothing magical or weird about it, just so we're not distracted or distracting others. Let's talk with God. God, I thank you that you're here. You're not way up in heaven just waiting for us to come to you. You are involved, and Jesus is proof that you are invested in this world and in our lives. You're invested in these young people today. You have a plan for their lives. You care for them. So Jesus, I just pray that you would speak to them by your Holy Spirit this evening and that you would guide this conversation. And I thank you so much, Jesus, for everything you've done. You are incredible. You are magnanimous. You are indescribable, and just you are breathtaking. So Jesus, captivate everyone's attention, point everyone to you, because you are the focal point of everything. You are the source of life. You are all that is good, and you are just perfect in every way. And so, Jesus, I thank you for your word. We thank you for the Bible, and that you speak through it to this day. And we pray all this in your name. Amen. All right, so quick history lesson. Just real quick, just a quick little history note. If you read through the whole Bible, you'll find one thing is consistently true. God initiates or begins relationship with humans. God always starts it. God always starts the relationship. You can look at Adam, you can look at Abram, you can look at Jacob, Joseph, Moses, Joshua, David, whatever. If you guys know these names, that's okay. If you don't worry about it. It's not a big deal. It's just there's a lot of men and women throughout the Bible that God spoke to. God showed himself to. They weren't looking for God necessarily. God found them. God is always the seeker. But tonight, let's just focus in on a guy named Abram. Later, he's called Abraham. Maybe you know that name a little better. Father Abraham had many sons. I don't know if you've heard that song or not, but whatever. Abraham, this guy named Abraham. Abram just kind of shows up in the Bible. Just 1 minute, he's briefly mentioned his dad is Terah. That's about all you get in the background. And then we jump into this verse. We're going to jump straight into Genesis chapter 12, verses 1 through 3. This is the introduction of this guy named Abram. The Lord had said to Abram, that's just it. That's how it opens. That's how you get to know who Abram is. There you go. The Lord said to Abram, leave your native country, your relatives, and your father's family, and go to the land that I will show you. I will make you into a great nation. I will bless you and make you famous, and you will be a blessing to others. I will bless those who bless you and curse those who treat you with contempt. All the families on earth will be blessed through you. Now, Abram is important because Israel, he is Israel's forefather. He's the start of Israel. He's the beginning of the nation of Israel, of the Jews. It all started with a man named Abram. And he's also the beginning of Christianity. A lot has happened because of Abram or Abraham. God calls him out of nowhere. Now, we don't know if Abram knew God or not. We don't know if Abram was this guy who believed in God and followed God and this man of faith, this religious man. We don't know. It doesn't say that. All we know is that God called to him. God talks to him one day and says, hey, I have an adventure for you. I'm going to invite you into a better life. Now, keep in mind, Abram is old. He's an old man. He's entering into retirement. He's rich. He's wealthy. Life is going good for Abram. He's lived a good, full life, and then God suddenly extends a hand to him and says, hey, want to go on a grand adventure? It's going to be amazing and incredible, and amazing things are going to happen if you go on this quest. And Abram says yes. He takes the hand and jumps out on a journey, and what a journey it is. And it changes his life forever. So God just shows up. God just happens to show up. Do you know how the Bible starts? In the beginning, God. Those are the first words, okay? God's just there. God just shows up. So, here's a little question for you. Before we put up the slide, I'll just ask the question. Who was the first person to find God? Spoilers, no one. Nobody, because God is the finder. No one found God. God finds them. The only thing is people realized God was looking for them. Their eyes were suddenly opened to that God was searching for them, pursuing them. God is the one who goes out and finds, not people. And Jesus paints a crazy picture of just how amazing God is, about this God who shows up. We're going to go to Luke chapter 15, verses 3 through 6. Jesus told them this story. If a man has 100 sheep and one of them gets lost, what will he do? Won't he leave the 99 others in the wilderness and go to search for the one that is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he will joyfully carry it home on his shoulders. When he arrives, he will call together his friends and neighbors, saying, rejoice with me because I found my lost sheep. Now, to the people Jesus told this to, it blew their minds. It made no sense. It was confusing because this was a revelation of who God is. Jesus is talking about God, by the way. He's saying this is what God is like. This is the nature of God. God goes out and finds, God shows up. Jesus' parable, this little story, this little illustration here about a shepherd, teaches that God shows up. He seeks. What? I don't know. So, I don't know. This is not how the world sees God, though. The world doesn't see God as someone who shows up, who's involved, who's invested. And honestly, it disturbs most people, the thought of that God is invested. Because I don't think we understand who God is. You're so accustomed to the world you live in where no one shows up. Or when someone does show up, they want something from you. They're there to manipulate you, to use you. Or it's just disappointment and failure. That's all that shows up. Why bother? But God's different. We believe we have to do work to find something meaningful, to find any purpose in life. To those of you who've been following Jesus and believe in Jesus, have put your faith in Jesus, it's often easy to start believing that you have to work to earn his love, to work to find him, to work to go deeper with him. But Jesus has done all the work. Jesus has done all the work. We're going to go to John 1 again, verse 14. This is written about Jesus saying, "So Jesus became human and made his home among us. He was full of unfailing love and faithfulness, and we have seen his glory, the glory of the Father's one and only Son." Jesus came to the world with one goal, with one purpose in mind. And that was to show God to the world, to show who God really was, to remind the world this is who God is. Hebrews chapter 1, another book in the Bible, starts off by saying Jesus is the perfect demonstration of who God is. He's the perfect representation. If you want to see what God is like, you just look at Jesus. So, here's how we're going to end this tonight. How does this affect you? Why does this even matter? Why does it matter that Jesus is God, and why does it matter that God shows up? How does this affect me? It's because God has found you. Jesus is God, and this matters because God has shown up. When no one else shows up, God does. And there's no greater story than the story of Jesus, because it's proof that God shows up. God, who could do whatever he wants, decides to live like a human being. For him, that's a big step. Jesus steps into our world, and we'll talk more about this in the future, but he died one of the worst deaths you can possibly die. And again, we'll explain more of how the details of how all this works. But he did it so that you could be with God and so that you could see God cares for you and he has a plan for your life. He's invested in your life and that he does show up. He's not waiting up in heaven. He's come down. This is our starting point tonight. We're going to go a lot deeper than this. But tonight I just want to leave you with God shows up. So can we stand? We're going to stand up just so you don't fall asleep. We're going to sing a song. Nope. Okay. Okay, we're just going to break out in a second. Slight change of plans. Not an acne. I'm going to break out in acne. So some of you might be wondering, what on earth can I do with this information? What value is this? Well, if you want to take action on this, if you believe God shows up, or there's even a small part of you that believes that God will show up in your life, that God will appear. I'm not saying it'll be this crazy physical manifestation or whatever, and you'll have this amazing vision. I'm saying he'll show up in your life in just some discreet, crazy ways. But it begins with learning to wait, which is the one thing no one ever wants to hear, because who likes waiting? And if you say you like waiting, you're lying. If you like waiting, then you're not waiting for something you really want and need. No one likes to wait. And the trick about God is that it requires following him and learning to see where he's going requires waiting. God takes his time. I don't know why he moves at the rate he does, but it's consistent throughout my experience. It's consistent throughout the Bible, and it will be consistent in your life. God takes his time. And so you need to learn to wait. Let's end with Luke 11, 9 through 10, and then I'll pray real quick and we'll be done, all right? Jesus tells this to his closest friends. He says, "So I tell you, keep on asking. You'll receive what you ask for. Keep on seeking and you'll find. Keep on knocking and the door will be open to you. For everyone who asks receives. Everyone who seeks finds. And to everyone who knocks, the door will be opened." Jesus is saying this is how you talk to God. You just keep waiting. You just keep asking. You just keep saying, you know what, God, I don't fully understand everything, but I trust you. And I trust that you will appear in my life. You'll appear in this difficult circumstance I'm going through. You'll appear in this heartbreaking situation I found myself in. You'll appear in this broken relationship I'm in. You'll appear in my anxiety. You'll appear in my fear. You'll appear in my joy. You'll appear in the good times. Wherever you're at, God can appear. And it makes a difference when he does. Let's close our eyes for 1 minute and we'll close in prayer.